Yeah, so living in Nebraska, it's actually a big melting pot because we don't have an NFL team here in Nebraska.
Right.
So you get a mix of Dallas Cowboys, Green Bay Packers, Chicago Bears, Kansas City Chiefs are probably the closest one. Denver Broncos. You kind of get the whole region. But my team is the Green Bay Packers because I grew up as a kid in Wisconsin. So in the mid 90s when I was in school, it was Brett Favre and Sterling Sharp and all the Packers, and so that was me as a kid kind of getting into the NFL.
So funny Brett Favre story. I was in Southern Mississippi when he was famous after college because I think it was Southern Miss, right, that he played for. But he had a house, and I was working for this like chicken wing place delivering chicken wings. It was kind of like delivering pizza, but it was chicken wings, right? And I delivered chicken wings to Brett Favre's house, and he stiffed me.
Oh wow! Okay.
So like, I got off on the wrong foot with Brett Favre.
Was he like a NFL MVP at that point?
Oh
like,
yeah, he was a bajillionaire. Like.
I was gonna say well, if he was fresh out of college, it's not as bad. But yeah, that's kind of crazy.
I try to give him the benefit of the doubt. He probably just like forgot, or it's like the chicken wing guy, right? It's not the pizza guy.
I wonder if he was even taking care of it. Like it was, he told somebody to get wings or whatever,
Yeah. Green Bay Packer fan. Okay. What's the TV market there though? Is it Chiefs?
Yeah, it can be tough to get the Packers games. It's a lot of Chiefs or Bears. It just kind of mixes. It's hard to say what you're going to get. It's every Sunday it's a box of chocolates. When you don't have an NFL team, it's just kind of whatever's on is what you get.
Yeah. My Broncos, it was a heartbreak situation. What can you say?
But hey, they've got a 5-year Super Bowl window right now. They got a young QB. They got a good coach. So I think you're going to be good for the next few years. You're all set.
Yeah, I think he learned his lesson on field goals. So hopefully we're good next year.
Yeah, the last 5 years, the analytics and everything taking over, everybody's getting super aggressive and going for every fourth down.
Yeah.
So I think you'll start to see the pendulum, shift back a little bit. It's like we went from too conservative to too aggressive, and now you're going to start to see coaches kind of, rein it in a little bit.
Yeah, and the stats on the fourth down, go for it on fourth down thing are significantly affected by the tush push, right? Like the Eagles sort of coming up with this play that now the Bills have mastered. And then like I watched the Broncos try to do it and they just don't know how to do it.
Well, the trick is they basically go slightly offsides every play. Like just offsides enough that the refs won't notice it, and they just practice that timing. So if you can't like perfectly jump off sides, you're not going to be able to run it near as well as they do.
Yeah, with a ton of big dudes, just the biggest dudes out there.
That helps. And a QB like Jalen Hurts, that's 230 or whatever in squats, 600 pounds.
Yeah, can't move him if you tried to. Well, hey, you party people! Welcome to another episode of Ned Consumes the World. Our guest today is Chosen /Brad / I'm going to pull one out of the hat, Chofly.
Yeah,
from
there
back
you go.
in the day.
Yeah.
Welcome, man. Thanks for joining today.
Yeah, good to see you. Thanks for having me. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's technically Meet a CC series. You're technically a CC, but in 2026 January with everything that's going on, you're in quite a bit of a different position than maybe even a year ago, I would say. Yeah,
so I do still do content. Like I dabbled on a different channel, testing out doing a different genre, V Rising, which is kind of more of like a survival combat RPG. So I do still do content, and I still do a little bit of content on like the Fateless YouTube channel. So podcasts or like I did a guide for the mini game that we're doing at Godforge. So still definitely a content creator, just not full time stream 5 hours a day, 2 videos. Like working in game design and stuff over at Fateless. It's more of a part-time thing that I kind of do here and there.
Yeah. How did you decide, the classic question, how did you decide to start doing content? I went back and I looked at your oldest video on your main channel, and it was Raid. It was like a Raid review 6 years ago. But I think you mentioned something in that channel that was like, or that video, you were like, my new channel, or this channel for mobile gaming. So you've been doing this longer than 6 years, right?
Yeah, I started in 2008 doing content.
No way,
so,
2008.
Yeah, so I I had quite the journey as a gamer and a content creator. It took me I believe 11 years to ever make a single penny from content. I wasn't monetized until 2019.
Wow.
So yeah, I was in it for the love of the game, and I was in the StarCraft community and running a clan and doing clan wars and yeah, just I never even dreamed that it would turn into like, oh, it's going to be monetized and you're going to be able to pay your bills doing content. I was just doing it for fun for 11 years until finally something kind of blew up with Raid Shadow Legends, and I was like, oh, maybe I should focus on this a little bit.
11 years. Was it YouTube in 2008? Was that where you were uploading?
The video, I can send you the video, on Discord. It's still there. It's me, like, college kid Brad casting like a StarCraft match that our clan was doing or something, like some random StarCraft video.
Did you have video? Like, were you on video?
I was not. No, I wasn't on webcam until I did like Diablo 3 content, I believe.
Okay.
Yep.
Wow, that's crazy. I had no idea. So you were like, was that before PewDiePie? It was certainly before he made a lot of money. But was that before he was even on the platform?
I don't know. I'm not huge. I know he started super early, 2009, 2010, something like that. But yeah, back in those days, there was no monetization. There was nobody making money, and you had a huge channel if you had like 1,000 subscribers. It was way different back then.
Yeah, when I think back to YouTube, that era, like probably 2008 to 2012, YouTube for us, especially once we could start seeing it on our devices, we would watch YouTube at work, and it would just be like some funny video. It was like pull up some silly thing, God, and then Gangnam Style comes out. Like, that's what I remember. Was like, it was always a video, and thank God people upload videos because there's no reward for it whatsoever. And then Gangnam Style comes out, and then you start seeing these news articles like, this dude made millions of dollars uploading a song to YouTube, and you're still just sitting around scratching your head like, what? It's so far removed from where we're at right now.
Yeah. Like back in my day, you were just hoping to like get noticed, and like, I guess the dream back then would have been like, oh, Blizzard notices my channel and they hire me as like a caster. Like that would have been the ultimate goal. Or you get sponsored, like, oh, Razer sponsors me and they're going to give me, $500 a month to use their stuff. And, I used to go to like StarCraft tournaments, and you'd have different companies like giving you, a mouse and a keyboard or something. But yeah, that was the kind of stuff we were fighting for back then.
Yeah, I think even in 2014, maybe, when I was watching Kripparrian for Hearthstone, in my mind, it wasn't that he was making money off YouTube. In my mind, it was like he's establishing himself as the authority, and then he gets to call like Pro Tour matches or something like that.
Yep. That was probably my first, I grew up, well, not grew up, but like early in the days of me doing content, I was watching people like Tasteless and Artosis, StarCraft casters. And that was probably the first thing I really wanted to do. I was, oh, it'd be so cool to be able to like cast on stage for Blizzard and call matches, so that was kind of like probably the first goal I had in the gaming industry, of like wondering if it could ever turn into something.
Yeah. What did you set out to do, like, in college? What did you think you were going to be growing up?
Yeah, I went first for like business management, super general. I graduated high school when I was 17. I didn't really know what I wanted to do yet, so I did something general. Then I wanted to do professional golf management. They call it the PGM program. Yep. So you basically go to get a 4-year degree, and then you take like a golfing ability test. And as long as you do well enough in the test, then you can like start becoming an assistant golf pro and start, helping run a golf course. And then ideally at some point in your, 30s or whatever, you move up to the point of being the head guy at a golf course. And that was kind of like my first vision for post high school and what I wanted to do in terms of education and moving into a career.
Are you still playing golf?
Yeah, I love golf, for sure. I definitely still play in tournaments here and there, and get out there and play when I can. So for sure.
Interesting. I want to play golf for years now. I keep telling my friends who play that I'm going to play. I've played disc golf for like 25 years.
Yeah, that got really popular the last few years. Yeah.
Yeah, I got a couple of friends that, my personal friends aren't on the tour, but my friends are like good friends with these people who tour, who are making 6 figures as pro disc golf players and just going around the country. It's crazy. how much it changed. And then YouTube affected it too, right? There's sweet YouTube videos now of like industrial park disc golf and stuff where they set up obstacles for each other. But how much it's changed everything, right? It changed gaming. It's changing golf. It changed disc golf. It changes football. Maybe gambling changes football more. I don't know. But it's YouTube is everything. Like, and the Game Awards was 157 million simultaneous eyes through streaming, which was better than the Super Bowl. So like we're living in a completely different world now than 3 years ago, than 5 years ago, and definitely than 2008.
Yeah, I'd say the main catalyst would have been the smartphone. That's when it seems like everything really shifted. In that like 2010 to 2012 range, when everybody started getting devices in their pocket where they can consume content and go on social media. That's when everything, it's kind of like the flipping point of humanity. Everything changed after that.
Yeah. For those of us alive to see this moment, it changed everything. Internet changed everything first, and then iPhone, basically. A screen connected to the internet.
Yeah, for sure.
So then if we fast forward to Raid, so you're already kind of established. Like, before Raid came out, what was your like sub count on your main channel? Do you remember?
I was doing Diablo 3 content. I couldn't even tell you the subs, honestly. It wasn't huge, probably like 6,000 or 7,000.
Okay.
And I created a new channel to cover Raid Shadow Legends because I didn't think my Diablo subs would want that content. So I made a new channel and met Darth Micro kind of right out the gate, and we kind of came up together, helped each other out, did streams together, and collaborated and all that stuff. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. And I actually originally wasn't even planning on covering Raid. The goal originally for my channel was to play a mobile game for a few days and then review it, and then play a new one and review it. I was just going to play mobile games and review them. I wasn't going to be like a Raid creator.
Were you Whale Pod?
Yeah, I don't think I ever was officially Whale Pod, but I was always adjacent to Darth, and we were always hanging out and doing stuff. But I think I was kind of running my own cluster, my own clan system.
Oh, okay.
And then he always kind of had his little crew going on, and then we just kind of were allies and did all sorts of content together.
I like Darth a lot. I caught him towards the end of his Raid career, but I watched because of what we'll talk about in a little bit, because of the transition with Diablo Immortal and Aftershock. Like, I watched him explode, and I was so happy for him. Like, to see him, struggle on some of his Twitch streams with 20 viewers or something like that, and talk about mental health and where he was at, and then all of a sudden he's like being flown to California by Blizzard and doing all this crazy stuff and having consistently over 1,000 people on his stream. It was cool, man.
Yeah, that's the part that a lot of people tend to miss, is that they think it's luck, or they think like, oh, I could do what this guy does. Like, why does he get so many views? But like, you don't see someone like Darth who grinded like 14 hours a day, getting very little views. And then all those lessons he learned and all that work ethic he developed for 10 years. And then it finally pays off. And he finally kind of hits something at the right time. And just completely blew up. And he was ready for it because of all the work that he put in previously. So it's very rarely luck. It's usually someone's journey culminating in some sort of blend of hard work and kind of paying your dues and finally getting to that point.
Yeah. Especially now with noise, right? Because there's so much noise, and there's only going to be more noise, especially with AI content. When did you realize that your Raid channel was onto something?
It was quick. It only took a couple weeks because like,
oh wow.
I was when I started playing Raid, I remember I was looking for like, what starter hero should I pick? Like the first thing I looked up and there was nothing, and I was like, well, geez, if there's nothing, like maybe I should do a couple videos on this game, and it was just immediately out the gate getting more views than anything I'd ever done in my life, like StarCraft, Diablo, just right out the gate, first couple of videos. So I was like, okay, and I still worked a full-time job at the time, so I couldn't kind of do what I want as far as like 3 videos a day and really capitalize on it, and I didn't have any clue what I was doing in terms of thumbnails and titles. And back then we didn't understand algorithms and stuff like we do now. Like, I was just a gamer putting random thumbnails and random titles and uploading videos. So yeah, it's just it's funny to see how it's evolved the last like 5 years and how much better the average understanding is for the titles and the thumbnails and how search optimization works, and we've all kind of learned all that stuff together.
And at what point did you quit your full-time job and like just do content, or did you ever?
Yeah, I did. That's an interesting story also, but I wanted to make sure that I could match what I was making at my job for like a 6-month period. And once I did that, I put in my notice. I was working at a bank at the time. I was working in finance. And so I put in like a 3-week notice, gave him plenty of time. And literally the day after I put in my notice, pandemic, boom. So I'm like, okay, I'm like, great. So now I'm venturing out in the world and everything's about to change. None of us knew what was going on. And so I'm like trying to get health insurance, and places are like assuming I'm sick, like because the pandemic or whatever. I'm like, I'm not sick. I'm just switching jobs. And because they're like, it doesn't kick in for 90 days, right? I'm like, yeah, I know. I just, and so it was a wild time to kind of venture out into the content world and leave your job kind of right when all that happened.
Yeah, crazy. We look back at, this was something you and I were talking about a little bit before we started recording. We look back at like that time when Raid was new. I think I got into Raid in 22 or 23. It had been out for a while. A lot of y'all had been established. Like I said, I caught Darth really before he fizzled out, right? I say fizzled out, burned out. He burned out, honestly, on Raid.
Well, he was just looking for something new, and Diablo Immortal was coming out and all that. So yeah. And we a lot of us in the Raid community jumped on that. So a lot of us thought Diablo Immortal was going to be like the next big thing in mobile. It ended up being decent, but it kind of fizzled out. So yeah, it was definitely an interesting time. Diablo Immortal definitely had a lot of our attention though. A lot of creators, basically every Raid creator at least tried it, I think.
I went with y'all, right? I got really excited about it because I like Diablo, and the prospect of playing it on your phone, and I got the Razer thing that like plugged in to the phone, so I was playing it like a PSP.
I did a review for that on my channel.
Yeah. It was sweet. It was the perfect way to play the game. I enjoyed the game, but my Immortal career ended because I basically hit endgame, so completed the campaign, hit endgame, ran the first, whatever they called it, Guild War situation, where I remember we were trying to get Darth to be like the guy to get the angel wings and all that, and I think he lost the match. I can't remember the very first one that they ever had, and it was like,
you mean like the fight for the Immortals?
Yeah.
Oh, you were there for the first
I was
Immortals?
I was in there. I was in like group 2, I think. So I wasn't in the one.
There. I remember that very well. That's super cool.
I wasn't running around behind Darth, but I was in like one of the support groups or whatever.
Well, what happened was there's like 3 clans that make it to the final or whatever, and we had talked with all the clans, and we were like, hey, we're gonna do this right. We're just gonna have a good fight and see who wins. And then the other 2 clans backstabbed us, and they teamed up with each other and killed us. So it was like this whole Game of Thrones drama, like, clans backstabbing each other and stuff. So we didn't even get a fair fight. Like, we thought it was going to be a fair fight, so we obeyed the rules, and then the other 2 clans just backstabbed us and killed us.
It was a cool moment. As much as I remember about it, it was a cool moment. But then I played the game for like another week after that. I was like, the monetization aspect was really, really daunting, to know that even if you were a spender, that you could never finish, which Raid's kind of that way, right? But in the world of Diablo Immortal, it was like number go up, never ends, no matter how much money you spend.
I had a similar journey, but go ahead.
Before we talk a little bit more about that and about Aftershock, I just kind of wanted to touch on how in 2022, 2023, you had kind of these big content creators getting established with Raid. You, Ash, Hell Hades, Darth. I'm a big J-Gigs fan, so I've been following J-Gigs since like the first video I saw of his. But one thing that I noticed about like you and Ash and Hell Hades was that you were doing like a lot of extracurricular stuff that was maybe adjacent to content but wasn't directly content. He started the website. I think it was you and Ash started Aftershock before Diablo Immortal, right? And it was more like a agency almost. But tell me more about that, like the formation of Aftershock and being
Yeah.
next to what Hell Hades was doing before you ultimately worked with him?
Yeah, sure. So our goal, I went to Ash and I was like, yo, hey, what do you think about like having a crew of content creators, where we all promote each other's stuff and we all kind of help contribute to a website, and we do a bunch of like fun competitions, and we run a team, and he thought about it for a little bit and thought like, yeah, that'd be fun. But at the time, I didn't even know that Hell Hades was, setting up something similar, and kind of getting that rolling. Otherwise I would have tried to kind of work together with him at that point. But just the way it kind of went is, there was two different projects happening, and both ended up going well, to be honest. Like, they crushed it with HH Gaming. We, on the Aftershock United side, had a super awesome cluster. I think it's still going to this day. And, we ended up really doing well with some of the Diablo stuff, like, with Darth blowing up like crazy, becoming the #1 creator. So everything went super well. And then eventually, when I kind of bowed out of Diablo 4 and was kind of coming to the end of Raid, we just kind of like scaled it back. And I was kind of looking for a new opportunity. And I did a collab with Hell Hades, and here we are. I kind of brought it up. I was like, hey, I'm kind of looking for something new. I heard about Fateless. What do you think about working together? And yeah.
How did that go? So Fateless had already started, right? And that was Simon, Dan, and Sham getting together?
Yep.
And did they already have the blueprint of Godforge? Were they already like, this is essentially what we're going to do first? Or were you coming in even before that?
Yeah, no, not at all. We didn't even know it was called Godforge yet when I came on. So basically, they had formed Fateless, I believe, in like May or June or something. And then I came on. I believe I was employee #1, and I came on to help like research and prepare for like what IP we were going to partner with. And help prepare for those meetings and weigh those options and naming the game and laying the foundation and all that. But that was kind of the stage that it was in back then. I believe I started like August 1st, so maybe a couple months after the inception of Fateless as a company. And then that's when we started down the path of like, okay, what's the lore going to be? Are we going to partner with an IP? What are the core gaming mechanics? And we'd be sitting in a meeting with different people, kind of discussing that stuff and laying out the early days.
Was it one of those, maybe this is a too personal question, but was it one of those where you started working for free?
No, Fateless is great. They never expected me to do anything for free. I came on day one, and they were we negotiated like a certain kind of salary set up, and yeah.
Oh, cool.
But I'm happy to always put in overtime. I love what I do, so they wouldn't even have to ask me. I'm always ready to work and ready to do more. That's no problem.
Not the startup story I expected.
Well, that's the thing is when you have super legit people like Hell Hades and Fixion Dan and Ash and like the absolute superstars that were, and the kind of firepower they have when they set out to start something, it's not surprising that it's not your typical startup situation.
Yeah. So what was your official role then? It was, I mean, that sounds like game design, but it was such an early level that it was like production level. It was like, what are we even going to do here? It wasn't down to a rule set or anything like that.
Yeah, originally I was going to be helping with community development and like research, like researching different IPs, researching other games and other mechanics and giving us different options. And then it eventually transitioned into me working on the design side and helping design hero kits and design different game modes and design like the gearing. And I've just kind of had like a small piece of the pie on helping discuss that sort of stuff. And then recently I've gotten more into like Unity and development and helping actually get heroes in the game and test abilities and maybe shift eventually to like the product side. So yeah, lots of different roles in the last 2.5 years or so.
What are a couple of the heroes that you would say like are a direct result of your brain? Like which heroes have chosen all over them? Would
they want me to say that? I don't know. But
where's Bad Alcazar?
Yeah. But the thing is, like, there are definitely a few that I have more of a hand in than others. but it is still a team approach. Like you
Yeah.
know, I'll submit a kit, and then there's, you know, a few different people that will say, oh, I like this or I don't like this, and then I'll change a few things, and then they'll be like, oh, you know, this is a little bit weak, buff it up a little bit. And so it is still a team dynamic, but there are definitely a few that are basically 100% me. But
Cool.
I don't know if they would want me to say that.
Say it in a British accent and it'll be okay.
They probably wouldn't care, but I like to play it safe. I don't know, but
Yeah. Don't let me put you on the spot too bad. Would you say though, because I think this is interesting, when you like submit a kit, in the way that you think, are you starting with like a god and thinking about what their theme is and then coming up with a kit, or are you thinking about game mechanics and coming up with a kit and assign it to a flavor of a character later?
So my workflow was I would research them extensively for like an hour, and I would, like, you know, watch, you know, historical videos. I would read you know, their Wikipedia page, you know, the whole thing top to bottom, and just kind of consume whatever credible content I could about that mythological figure or whatever, and try to get in the mindset of, you know, because you don't want to, like, you wouldn't want to design Zeus as, like, you know, a fire god. You know, you would want him to have lightning. And so you would need to research to understand that. And then once you kind of get in the vein of, like, okay, their temperament was pretty angry and aggressive, and they wield this, and this is the kind of elements that they would kind of make sense with, and this is their lore. After that, you start to look at, like, okay, and what mechanics fit that research that I could kind of fit in our realm, and, you know, fit in Godforge, and kind of express that. So, and then after you get it done, I just kind of stare at it for like 30 minutes, and I'm like, okay, what seems dumb? What doesn't make sense? What seems weak? What seems too strong? And then you kind of like self-balance it, and then you submit it and get feedback, and then we kind of work on it as a team.
Gotcha. Okay. So yes, definitely starting with the god, the lore, the flavor, and assigning a kit to it as necessary. I imagine too, though, that you do have to have some level of, you know, here are the 100 mechanics that we have in the game. We have to have a hero that does, you know, these 3 versions of that mechanic and these 3 versions of that mechanic, and just to kind of cover the bases.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you look at things like, do we have too much attack down? You know, like, oh, 6 of our last 12 heroes have place attack down, so let's avoid that for a few heroes, and let's like, so we do kind of track that stuff internally, and we have spreadsheets where we kind of make sure we have at least a little bit of everything. We need some healers, we need some men, we need, you know, some disablers, and then we try to kind of get these boxes checked off. But the most important thing is making it make sense with their, like, lore. That's the most important thing. Is we want you know, when you play with a hero, oh, it feels like this hero, you know. So that's number one, and then we try to fit in the game mechanics after that.
How much of it is taking what Raid did well, and I don't want to say copying it because it's such a terrible word, but, you know, doing what the market expects for the genre, right? How much of it is that, and how much of that influences a decision for you not to do something, where you've gotten to a point where you're like looking down a cliff of, like, I just designed a Raid hero, we have to roll back something or change this mechanic or make it feel different?
Yeah, it's not even just Raid. You know, we look at all sorts of games for inspiration, and we test a lot of things and try to look at, you know, like any industry, what's the first thing you're going to do? You're going to try to look at what works and what doesn't work. You know, you're going to try to learn from history as best you can, and then you're going to try to put your own innovation on it. So, yeah, we take things from other games as cool mechanics, and then see if we could try to pull that off in our own way, and try to innovate. You know, there's some things that are just kind of figured out, and, you know, the hard part is, like, you don't want to copy anything. So you always want to innovate, but you also don't want to change something just because you think you should change something. Like, if something works, you know, like, so you don't want to force change just to be different, but you definitely need to bring enough to the table that your game stands out and innovates.
Did the imprint system, like, just basically throw a wrench in the gears? Was it like, now we've got this entire other system, and so we don't actually run into a lot of the same scenarios anymore? And maybe that's problematic as much as it's helpful.
Yeah, we just, we really wanted players to be able to customize, and we wanted players to be able to theory craft and min max and oh, this hero and this imprint, and it also opened up an avenue of like, maybe this hero isn't super great and I'm not going to be able to use them in any of my teams, but I've got their imprint. I can place their imprint on somebody. And so now you still at least get something for summoning that hero, because you get a copy of their imprint, and you can play around with it on different weapons, and you can, try it on this team over here. So it just gave us another layer to kind of extend the treadmill of how many heroes a player is going to be excited to kind of summon and work with.
Yeah. I watched your video with Ramsey, and I think that the mismatch of y'all's tier lists was really interesting, especially because you call out some heroes that aren't frequently making the top 5 on like a lot of other people's tier lists. But it sounds like you really value a hardcore arena champ, because you're talking Sun Wukong and Hercules are pretty far up there. Even I think Ares up there.
I think I had Ares at like 15th, so nothing too crazy, but I had him higher than most. I think he's usually like down in the 20s, 24, 25. I had him up around like 15th. I think I'd have to. I'll see if I can find mine and pull it up. But
when we try to read between the lines on like things that we hear Fateless staff saying about heroes, we're overthinking it. But it's like Chosen's putting a lot of emphasis on arena heroes, and like PvP. People may not like PvP, but maybe that speaks to the importance of PvP farming in Godforge. I don't know.
I think it's great to hear all the like theories that come out. Maybe I did that subconsciously, but that definitely wasn't like a goal of mine. Like, oh, I've got to really put the, but it like I love hearing people's logic and how they come to conclusions. So, like I really value the kits that do a lot and are super consistent, and I just feel like a kit like Sun Wukong just brings so much. Like maybe he is a PvP hero, but I also think he's going to be so insane in like all content. So I wouldn't view it as like I'm picking him for the arena. I would just view it as I'm picking a good hero in general.
Yeah, I think it's the immortal. I think the immortal revive mechanics, right, are kind of where you start to think about. You even mentioned it to Ramsey. You were like, Hercules is going to go down, then he's going to come back up with full health and AoE on his basic, which is extremely powerful in an arena situation. But I didn't really use him that much in the alphas, I have to admit. Like, Ramses was getting the job done on Golden Guardian, Ramses and Achilles, without needing to put anything into Hercules. So he almost felt like a wasted slot on my teams, because he just didn't hit hard enough. Sure, he was hard to kill, but like when you got to the later waves where it was either you got to trick your way out of it with specific champs or you have to just brutalize it, he just couldn't find a role for me.
Yeah, gotcha. I don't remember. It's been so long since I don't remember who I used Alpha Wave 3, but there was definitely one of the alphas where Herc was crazy, but then his multiplier got adjusted a little bit. But I just think in general, we see in the early stages of any game in this genre, AoE basics is just always so strong. When you're trying to progress and when you're trying to finish off waves and you're trying to maximize your playtime every day, and the content that would take you 5 hours to clear now takes you 3.5 hours if you've got a bunch of AoE. So like it just always compounds early game, it feels like, in these games. So I do tend to have like a personal bias of loving AoE and loving AoE basics, especially early, like when a game's new.
We both have Sizzin up there. That's who I'm taking in with my account that I'm going to spend money on. That's who I'm taking in. My free-to-play account, okay. I'm taking Vivian. But because you just don't know with a free-to-play account. But
yeah, both of those are in my top like 7 or so. Yeah,
they're exciting champs. They're also non-RNG reliant, like a Morgan Le Fay, where I try to avoid an RNG champ if I'm progressing. I like RNG champs when I'm trying to have fun.
Or if you're min-maxing, like if you're really trying to push through like a stage that you just can't beat, maybe you bring a hero that's got a 25% chance to stun, and you just brute force it. You just run it until you get good luck, and they stun every time. So you can use unreliable heroes to brute force something that's a sticking point for you. But yeah, in general, when you're starting an account and it's like your first core that you're going to build, you probably want consistent reliability.
One more thought on Godforge Heroes before we talk about something else is we were doing a video recently. Hopefully it comes out. I got 3 hours of footage that I got to cut through, but Adam and Papa Tez and I did a video. And in the video, the topic of Lamashtu comes up. And even the thinking behind like taking Sizzon off of Godforge quests and not, a Heimdall or an Isis or a Svarog. I don't think anyone has confirmed, but I sort of assume at some point there's going to be boss level content that involves minions. Because otherwise Lamashtu's kit just doesn't feel useful in a lot of different scenarios, right? Because wave-based content, a 3-wave, PvE content, you're going to get through it, right? You're going to get through it with a number of different champions, whether it's crowd control or just big AoEs or whatever, but that need to have minions dropping or enemies dropping so that the rest of the kit can happen, it makes me think of a spider boss, right? Something like Raid. But without, digging, I don't think we've had anything confirmed that was, minion-based content where some of these kits can shine.
You're trying to get a hot leak here for a clip, aren't you? I'll let Simon leak the bosses and do videos covering them. So I'm not gonna tell you anything in that regard. But I like your logic. I like where you're going and trying to kind of dissect what could be coming down the road. But I don't want to sit here and confirm future boss mechanics until
confirming or denying.
Hey, I was in your shoes, doing all sorts of interviews like this, so I would have asked the same thing. So I like it.
She's a cool champion. I'm just sitting there looking at her and I'm thinking like, man, I would rather have Morgan. In that world of RNG, like I would rather embrace the RNG than something where what I know about the game right now, I don't know how to apply this. Right.
But I think the counterpoint to your tinfoil hat theory is that I have the Mosh 2 ranked low. So maybe you're wrong.
Yeah.
So you could be right or you could be wrong.
The true patented Ned Crash tinfoil hat theory, just so you know it, is that there exists a UK syndicate of all the UK content creators, and they all got golden Godforge coins. So
I didn't think that was a conspiracy theory. I just thought that was true.
Yeah, if you watched... well, you certainly watched the podcast with the sheriff, but I was going to say if you watched Ragewood's interview, he wanted his to be chocolate, but I think he was let down.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, so then you said you've been doing V-Rising. Actually, I have played some V-Rising. We played it as a household, 2 different consoles in different rooms and whatnot. I really like V-Rising, but do you plan to get back into a steady cycle of content creation, or are we, witnessing the transition of Chosen into just embracing the game dev life and, content at this point is Fateless content?
Yeah, I don't know. I love to do content, so I'm sure at some point some game will come along that I really love, and I'll cover it, on nights and weekends, outside of my job. I'd love to do Godforge content also, but I just kind of feel like it's tough. It's a tough thing to kind of pull off properly, being someone that works on the game. But if I didn't work for Fateless, I would definitely be doing Godforge content for sure. I'd be doing tier lists and guides and beginner progression guides and all sorts of stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I've thought about all sorts of stuff. Like, do I do a golf channel? Do I do like...
Oh, cool.
I do love doing content, so I'm sure at some point I'll get back into it, even if it's just 2 or 3 videos a week.
Yeah, you talked earlier about football and golf and sports in general. When I set out to create this podcast, that was something I had in the back of my mind was like, when you think about games, music, and culture, there are 3 topics that like transcend a lot of barriers between humans. And to me, games doesn't just mean video games or mobile games or anything like that. Like, I really love talking about just the greater concept of games, and sports are games. It makes total sense that you'd want to keep gaming, but real life content.
Yeah, definitely. I'm a big sports guy, so definitely football, basketball, golf. I love to play poker. All sorts of those
poker
hobbies. Yep. So yeah, well, obviously, I'm a millennial. So when I was in college, poker was just exploding. It was everywhere. It was on ESPN for 5 hours every night, and watching the World Series of Poker with my friends in college. So we would all hang out, get a 6-pack, and play cards. So yeah, I kind of grew up in that. So I definitely still love to play some poker.
With what's going on right now, getting ready for early access, do you even have time to play games that aren't Godforge? Or is it just QA testing all day, every day?
No, I do. Like Fateless is great. Like they really run the company very well. They don't really force us to work 110 hours a week or some crazy thing. They treat us really well. So I put in my 40 to 50 hours a week, and I do have time nights and weekends to still. So I do still game. I game even if there's no money in it or views or whatever. I just like to play, and there's all sorts of games I play that I've never covered. So yeah, and even for work, like I still should game because I want to know.
Oh, right.
Like I want to know what other mechanics are out there. What are new games doing? What's working? What isn't working? What do players like? So I still think it's a good thing for me to do, even career wise.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. What have you been playing other than V Rising?
Yeah. So besides V Rising, I played a lot of Factorio recently.
You're about to say Arknights, aren't you?
No, actually no. But I play Overwatch, and then it would have been what's some of the other. I play like sports games on console, like NCAA football. I'll do like a dynasty, or I'll fire up the baseball game and run a franchise. I love sports games, so that would be like the main ones recently. Like Diablo 4, I always jump in there and dabble around a little bit for new seasons and stuff like that. I've been waiting till they get leaderboards to really go hard in a season and see what I can do. But yeah, that would be the main ones recently, I think.
Did you roll up a paladin?
I did not. I did not have time to do a paladin, but I saw that it was getting rave reviews. So yeah. I definitely do want to run an Aradin and run around, but I also spend a lot of my time like consuming gaming content. So if I have free time, I'll have my TV on and try to go through all the different main channels and kind of watch what people are saying and watch them review games. Oh, I also played through Pal World recently.
Yep. So, yeah, you're all over the place.
Yeah, I'm all over the place. Yep.
No, you should check out Infield then. So obviously you like gacha mechanics, but if you enjoyed Factorio, blend now the adventure game with the factory game and the gacha mechanics. Anime game.
What was it? I'll type it in. What was it?
Arknights Infield. It literally just came out. So.
Oh, okay, cool.
It's been out for like a week. First anime game I've played in 15 years, and man, it's fun. It's crazy too, because if you, from a game development standpoint, actually, like this could be interesting, because I've worked in the software industry for a long time. What they've done with their user interface is fascinating. Like their user interface is like solid baked, and every single mechanic and navigation path and thing that you can do, they have a instruction set tied to it with a reward if you go through the instruction set. So it's like the game is so in-depth and detailed and so crazy. Like if they were to throw it all at you in the first hour, you'd just be overwhelmed and you wouldn't play. So they like piecemeal feed it to you for the first 5 to 20 hours. But every time they introduce something new, they give you like either a simulation or a video or whatever. And if you do the simulation or the video, you're rewarded with currency. So like even, summon currency, which is, as we all know, quite premium in the gacha world.
Yeah, for sure. It's like the... you're talking about that mechanic that overwhelms people. Reminds me of like the Path of Exile passive tree. Like people open that and they're like, "Whoa!" Like,
yeah, that's a good one. Even like Enshrouded, the Enshrouded tree overwhelms me when I open it.
I played that. I actually was gonna do content on Enshrouded. I have like on that like other channel I do, where I do like V Rising and Valheim and all sorts of random stuff. So I played Enshrouded. It wasn't my type of game. It was like too easy, I guess. Like, I love V Rising, and it'll start to, maybe explain why. It's because like the bosses are so difficult and it's so hard to progress in that game. I like that like gritty, dark, difficult, everything is scratch and claw for like, so if it's like bright and cutesy and easy, it's not really my style as much. So even though I played through Pal World, I prefer something like V Rising typically.
Yeah. No, I like V Rising a lot, and it was a good level of complexity and difficulty. I did not finish it by any means. I think I was in the third or fourth tier of bosses where you hunt them with the blood scent or whatever before something else came along. But what that makes me think of is just recently I beat Hollow Knight for the first time. That one was like making me scream at the walls. Like I was, it's the most frustrated I've been since Elden Ring by anything. I'm playing it.
I haven't played that one yet.
10 years later. I mean, it's a Metroidvania, but it's like a Souls level Metroidvania. Like you're punished for not getting it right.
Yeah. Well, and even V Rising did some of that. Like some of those bosses, one mistake and you're toast. It's over.
Yeah.
So it's kind of Souls like in that regard.
Well, cool. Well, let's transition a little bit to the other two topics, music and culture. But tell us a little bit about the role of music in your life.
Yeah, so I did actually play the trumpet in the school band
nice.
for like fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth. So for 4 years, I played the trumpet. Now I am not musically gifted at all. So like I'm just not. That's not one of my skills. So I was not a good trumpet player. And by the time I got into high school, I kind of phased out of the band and kind of focused on sports. But I did play a musical instrument, and I could probably still play it at a basic level today if I tried, but I wouldn't be good. And yeah, just I'm not. So I was never a musician or like in a band or anything, but yeah.
What do you listen to usually, and in what setting? Like a work context or a fun context?
Yeah, it'd be, the typical, like, I found, I kind of was thinking about this the other day. I was like, I don't think I've listened to a song that came out in the last 10 years. In 10 years. Yeah. Like, everything I listen to is like, from the 2000s, it's like Eminem or Linkin Park or, something like that. Like alternative rock, Red Hot Chili Peppers, that type of stuff. So yeah. I'm not as like in tune with the new stuff. I don't know if that's because like it's definitely a cultural shift how we don't like listen to the radio anymore. So like yeah. It like if I'm in my car, I've got like a podcast on or something. Like yeah. So it's I wonder, maybe you would know more than me on like if it's harder now to get music out, like new music to everybody, or if it's easier maybe because of like TikTok, and I don't use TikTok. So
music is interesting. I mean, like everything else, the internet changed it, and then mobile phones changed it. In the case of music, piracy and then streaming changed it quite dramatically. But you're not alone, right? Like I think about the conversation about who was going to play the Super Bowl this year. And I think just about everybody they were talking about, I had never heard a song from. And then they settled on Bad Bunny. So like Bad Bunny's playing the Super Bowl. I've never heard a Bad Bunny song in my life. I haven't sought one out. Maybe if I heard it on the radio, I could recognize it. But like, I remember being happy the weekend got to play the Super Bowl because you couldn't not hear that song. You went into the grocery store, you got your oil changed. Some little old ladies walking down the street listening to the freaking Weekend. We don't know what's out anymore because a million songs a day come out, and we're like on our go-tos on our playlists.
I saw like I don't remember if it was an article or like a video or whatever, but it was talking about how like the reason Taylor Swift is so huge is because that's like the last pop star we're ever gonna have, because Taylor Swift was kind of like really young when the like smartphone was coming out, and how we don't really have a mono culture anymore. So everybody's kind of off in their own silos listening to stuff. Whereas Taylor Swift was like the last one that was like a universal monoculture star. And so I wonder if, that's the reason we always see, things like halftime shows are like Justin Timberlake or Eminem. Like it's people who are in their 40s, because that's like the era of when we actually had a monoculture. And so it's something everybody can recognize. But yeah, it's an interesting thought is, gone are the days of like, going to school and being like, oh, did you see that Friends episode last night? Like we used to all watch the same stuff, and now we all have our own like algorithm.
Now it's just like, did you see this right here? Like, and then they show it to each other on the phone, and then they want 7 seconds because we've changed our attention spans.
Yep. Yeah.
One of the interesting things in the pandemic with music that I saw was all these people creating, they were creating content, whether they knew it or not, whether they thought they were creating bands and music, but they were creating content because they were doing like come together music on a video. So they're all in their houses, and in a lot of cases these were people who weren't previously playing music, and they were globally dispersed, and they're releasing like new music where you see 5 windows on the screen, and they're all playing their instruments using in-ears and editing and all of that. That was like a big change, and since then I feel like live music has not been the same since the pandemic, because before the pandemic live music was at least the circles that I ran in was like very sweaty and touchy, and then after the pandemic, people are like, ugh, don't cough on me.
Yeah. When I think of live music, I think of like, you're at a dive bar and there's like, loud, gritty environment with music going on. But maybe that's because I grew up in the Midwest, and that's what it's like out here in Nebraska. But
yeah. And then kind of the last topic that we always talk about is culture. So I'm not sure if you had a cultural topic that you wanted to bring up.
I'm usually a bit out of the loop on culture stuff, because I like, if I have free time, I like most people watch like Netflix or something, but I'll watch like a documentary on black holes. like that's the kind of stuff that I like to watch. So I'll watch something that piques my curiosity as opposed to like watching Netflix. Or I'll watch like gaming lore summaries, or game reviews for a game I've never played before. So I'm usually consuming that kind of stuff. Whereas like the last like main culture thing that I watched religiously was probably like Game of Thrones.
In popular culture, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm usually more of the loop on that stuff than most people, I would guess. But if it comes to sports, I watch like a ton of sports, like the Super Bowl, all the big games and stuff like that.
Sports culture seems like it's changing because of gambling. I don't have like a Polymarket account yet, but I was gonna put money on the Seahawks the other day. I was thinking about it. I was like, Broncos just aren't going to win. I don't think any of the other teams have a shot.
I did. I had Seattle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are they up to now? Is it, they're like 60-40 or something on Polymarket? I haven't looked.
Probably. I contribute to the problem that you're talking about, because I love to have my Robinhood account up, and then I can just sit there and trade teams like stocks. So
Did they do that in Robinhood? I didn't realize that.
Yeah. So like I'll be watching, like I was watching the Seahawks game, and I've got my Robinhood up, and I can just trade, and then I have a spreadsheet where I keep track of it to make sure I'm not losing money, because if I'm losing money, I'm gonna quit cold turkey. As long as I'm up, I'll let myself do it, but I'm not gonna like go broke, betting on stuff. But
now we start to put the Venn diagram together, right? Like poker player, gotcha content creator, sports betting.
Yep, exactly. Yep.
I mean, the culture of gambling, modern gambling, is really interesting because of things like Polymarket and Robinhood. That's where I have my like crypto now, is on Robinhood. So I don't have my crypto, right? Like I don't own it. I'm just trading it like a number on a screen.
I've got maybe 15% of my portfolio in Bitcoin, just to kind of stay diversified. And if BTC blows up to 1 million, at least I've got a little bit of it.
Do you fear that gambling on everything affects outcomes? Because NFL, I love the Broncos. It's been hard since Peyton Manning, right? Like 10 years, it's been brutal without that team, without Von Miller. It's just like, it felt like it was going downhill for such a long time. But a big part of that was the refs. So it's like, I would come in, I wouldn't be a Fairweather fan. I'd watch the Broncos suck. But like so many games were close, and the refs just decided the game. based on some super questionable call. And then, you get to 2025 and the NBA coach gets arrested. I don't know whatever happened to him, but for essentially, throwing games for,
I thought that was a player. Wasn't that a player?
Oh, player. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
So then, like, how much do you fear that the reality of this is now people will guide outcomes in order to, reap the benefits?
Yeah, I'm sure it does, and you hear all these stories of like, a college player that's broke and they accept the deal to start like, throwing games and stuff. And I've heard about it even in like my community that I came from, like StarCraft community, in like Korea, you could bet on games and then there'd be a story come out where players are throwing games. And yeah, it's probably, even though I contribute to the problem, it's probably not a good thing overall. Like, but it's a tough spot. 'Cause like, do you want to be draconian and not allow it? Or
right.
Like, so but is it good for society to have it? And is it good for these things to like, I'm sure gambling affects it. So yeah, it's a tough one that I don't know the answer to, honestly.
And, in the world of microtransactions, like, do you want to be draconian and get rid of it and then essentially nix an entire genre of games now?
Because you could say the same thing about like, we should outlaw spending on video games because it's people could go broke from doing that. But then like, where do you draw those lines? It becomes really difficult. Like, something like drinking too much alcohol is bad for people. Should we ban alcohol? Like it just
right.
It really gets really difficult to start drawing these lines and making decisions for people. So yeah, I don't know. I'd probably be in favor with allowing it. And then just hopefully trying to weed out the bad actors that are abusing it.
Yeah, there was like an advertisement for Kalshi or Polymarket, one of the two, and the advertisement, it's a really long one, so it's not like a TV spot, but the advertisement is essentially like them telling you with an actor, so the actor's acting out the whatever behaviors, but it's like a voice narration where it's telling you to like bet on GTA 6 not coming out on time, go get a job at Rockstar as a janitor overnight when you're the only person in the building, go delete 5 files from everybody's computer, and then wake up and then there's a new delay or whatever. But that's them, and it's tongue in cheek, right? But they're pointing out the flaw in the whole system, right?
Well, I mean, but like these flaws exist in every system. Like the hot topic is like politicians being able to trade stocks. And it's like,
yeah, absolutely.
And now you got people like following politicians' portfolios and trying to mirror them. Like all of the people are always going to be able to find an angle or find a way. So really, the only way to like stop that would be to like ban it all. And then it's like, we want to live in that world, either where everything's banned. So, yeah, people smarter than me hopefully can figure it out, because I wouldn't know the answer. I wouldn't know what to do if I was in charge.
They're old problems, but I think that they are more front of mind and prolific now because they have so many angles due to the internet and devices, due to the instancy of all information and communication now. So, you talked about black holes, right? That concept of like in quantum physics where you can measure what one, part of an atom is doing by looking at this part of the atom, no matter how far away it is. It's like we can know instantly what's happening in Japan right now, so we can bet on it. Right? Or we can manipulate it.
Yep. And humans will always, what is that, like game theory? Like if something can be abused, it will be abused.
Yeah. Well, in order to wrap up, what I've been asking a lot of people lately, especially people like yourself who are really successful with this, is what advice do you have for all these new content creators that we're essentially minting in this Godforge world?
Yeah, just be yourself, and that and be consistent, and don't chase like views and money. Otherwise that will lead to burnout and frustration. And I would find something, if you're going to do content, I would find something that you're passionate about and you would do for free. Obviously everybody wants to get views and have a successful channel and stuff, but like that was my path, is like I did something that I would do for free, And then it did eventually work out, but I was never chasing like, oh, I'm going to get into this because I can make money or I can get views. So maybe I have a different perspective. Now with the business aspect of it, it probably is pretty viable to get into it right from the very beginning to be like, well, no, I got to make this amount of money within 2 years or I'm done. So yeah, it's hard for me to give overall advice, but I guess it would just be consistent, be yourself. I know that it took me a while to get comfortable on camera. I'd always be like, hey, this is Chosen, and in this video I'd always be like trying to put on a presentation back in the early days, and then once I started just kind of letting loose and being myself is kind of when I was able to see a little bit more growth and connect with people a little bit better. So yeah, just research, thumbnails, titles, try to think of good topics, be consistent, don't get down on yourself. You're gonna have weeks or months where it goes bad. You're gonna have weeks where it goes good, and just try to kind of stay the course and hope it works out and work hard at it.
Right on, man. Well, thanks a bunch for coming. Thanks for doing the show today. Everybody appreciates it. I personally, sincerely appreciate it. You're welcome anytime.
Yeah, this was fun. Thanks for having me. Good to chat with you.
And thanks everybody for listening. Peace.
Cheers.